Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to day one. Today is March 29th, 2025, day one of our training day. And we're look forward to today's training from Joe. And thank you for everybody that has come back. We have, looks like 23 people here, so that's good. And Joe, you ready to go? You can take it away.
Thanks, Kathy. I'm a real stickler about typos. I just see one here. So talking about all of these points here. And again, everybody, we're building a familiarity of how each of these meetings take place. So again, for those who were in attendance before and during 2024, we kind of set this precedence here for everybody as a thumbnail. So even those that you may send to our recordings, they will also see this as the thumbnail. And even before they click play, they can see what is being discussed right from the top. Okay. And another thing we're going to add as a time frame is take some of your questions. We may not be able to answer them, but we would like to get those on the record from the beginning as well, so that transcripts can capture those, and we just so we can keep an eye and ear on them, and then an answer, of course. So that's the effort. We don't want to bury questions towards the end, but we will leave space for questions at the end as well. So here's our update for today. We're going to leave it at 4 main points, and we'll try to talk through each one. If we have to circle back through each time, each training day, eventually we'll be able to capture everything that was discussed throughout the year. But so point one, we'll piggyback off of what was discussed 2 weeks ago. So we have that, and then we're moving into now 2025 thoroughly. We're going to talk about the Assembly Militia Handbook, HANDBOOK. But we're not going to be able to provide any information on it that you can visually see, but we will touch on some of the moving parts tonight, what it looks like. But to see the handbook and it's past its introduction, we'll have to wait for 2 weeks from now. So now we're going to move into our questions after we touch on points 2, 3, and 4. So be prepared with your questions after we go to the next slide. And this bullet here is talking about what we'll illustrate tonight regarding certain implements of the handbook. So pre-excerpts of the handbook. You'll see these again in the handbook. Louise is, as we build our own synergy, if there was ever a moment where if she's attending these meetings, including Boyd, who has materials, if I happen to fall off, hopefully they can take over with what they may have in my place. For any abrupt stops, or if I do have to actually postpone my material, they can come in. So I want to be able to send these same slides to them eventually ahead of time, no matter what, so that they can have them. The County Guardians Association or affiliation effort, similar to the Sheriff's Association nationally, National Sheriff's Association, some of the county guardians are attempting to try to set up the same effort. So this is brand new. It's been talked about maybe 6 months, but it started to gain traction in the last 30 days. We'll talk a little bit about that today, given time. Point one is our main point always, but there is enough time we can touch upon all 4 points. Just by mentioning them is, suitable enough for me, hopefully for you all, that these are things coming throughout the year. And then they'll start to build. 2 will become 1, 3, 2, and 4, 3, those kinds of things. And then other elements will take their place, 2, 3, and 4. Luis, do you have anything about PKTF liaison participation? Maybe not so much at this moment, but do you have things maybe you'd like to share next for day 2?
Yeah, I can share it for day 2.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll share a little bit about point 3 for everybody as we go. And then point 4, you'll be able to go on our UGE platform somewhere. We're going to have it on our replays platforms, where you'll be able to yourself go to tutorials where myself or some animated voice walks through every portion of the Peacekeeping Task Force news site as it is at that time. That way you can, I don't have to, pull it up, switch screens, and then pull up those details. So, and they'll be updated as significant changes to the site is provided. So that should be helpful for you and for any of your, liaison team members as they build out. That should be pretty helpful, I think. Okay. So go ahead and we'll open it up for 5 or so minutes. Anybody would like to get their questions on the record? The floor is yours. If not, we'll move forward.
Are you talking about any question?
Yep. Just
Okay.
just knock them out into the field. Yep.
Yes, let's touch on this because today Mark Parker, who has been our radio, he's a former Navy. He's been out of the field for many years, but he was a radio engineer, and he's through his conversations with, he lives in Brevard County, and they've got a very active county assembly there, and they talked him out of being involved with what we're doing. They're going to work on something for Florida, and that's where they are right now. We're just not moving quickly enough with our American peacekeeping communications, whether it's the mobile dispatcher or whatever. So anyway, that just happened today. So I yield.
Yeah, we'll talk about that as far as the APCMD. This will be something that we can bring forward probably in Series 2, a combination of the tail end of Series 1 and Series 2. We are a little bit behind the 8 ball here with some of those things, just because it's brand new, it's fresh, and with limited resources. I don't think we have any lacks in interest at this time, but we can talk about that a little bit.
So David has a question.
Go ahead, David.
Hi, Joe. Say we got the email, which I'm sure probably all coordinators, recording and interim would be coordinators. I know you know who I'm talking about. Received your 2025 multi-state standing and seatment initiative email. So that was shared in one of our interim sessions committee of the whole meetings on Missouri the other night. Everybody was pretty excited about it, but then one of the members mentioned, well, because the actual Missouri Assembly proper Marshal at Arms is not seeking Peacekeeping Task Force services and does not wish to be approached by the Peacekeeping Task Force right now, would that kind of derail this effort and kind of leave Missouri behind? And the best to my knowledge, I said, well, because of the fact that I'm in here taking training, going through interviewing, we should probably proceed as if it will become a reality in due time. But I may have been remiss in saying that. So I just wanted to get a clarification from yourself on the record so I could take that back to the assembly, or the interim sessions committee, excuse me. Sorry.
Right. Yep. We have that. We have a gauge, a kind of a barometer that I shared with everybody internationally 2 weeks ago. I cleaned it up, so I will share that. The conditions of your assemblies with regards to peacekeeping from top to bottom, top being the most evolved and the least being the just nearly absent, no evidence of being in session. So I'll share with that. Good question. We have a good segue for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Annette? I see another typo. Oh, it's like nails down the chalkboard. Not working. Go ahead, Annette.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my time, taking my question and your time. So our county is now fully seated, and we actually have really good participation, and we're trying to figure out now how to present that to the de facto that Marion County is in session and seated and ready to get to business. And are we looking at a long-term process for that affiliation process to happen, or are we kind of on our own for a little bit? Any kind of idea where with that
Right.
we have?
Well, and then
Okay.
it looks like every Florida county is going to be in a really nice, comfortable exercise position because the Florida Assembly is being audited at the federation level as well at the same time. So I think you're the first, Florida's the first state, and your county is the first state to have that harmony taking place at the moment.
Spectacular.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess my recommendation, well, that you're here as well, seeking to become an advocate for your local peacekeeping, for your county peacekeeping. So
That,
that's even better.
that is
Yeah.
correct.
So yeah, I'd say sit back and kind of get a little more cozy and more confident, and uh, we'll talk about how you can start branching out your outreach efforts and your networking. So you're an
Okay.
excellent company.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to answer my question. And
Mhm.
I will yield.
Okay,
Joe,
Louise.
may I chime in on Annette? Annette's question. Annette, I did ask Anna on our last meeting if I could go ahead with the initiative to bring the county assemblies up and going, and she gave me approval for that. So I will be working. Well, Annette, their county is one of my model counties for the Resurgence Project. So they're going to be getting special attention and extra. They're going to offer me extra help to try to get the county assembly standing and seated. And we're going to see that synergy going to get those state assemblies seated as well. So I just wanted to chime in on Annette. And there's another county assembly. I don't know if they're here, El Paso County, Colorado, is also going to be helping out with that initiative and spearheading that. So we will get into more details about that later. I'll be emailing everybody. Thanks, Joe. I just want to chime in on that.
Sure. Right. Any more questions? We'll try to give a few 4 or 5 minutes for those. Kathy, we're capturing a transcript, right? Just want to.
Let me turn that on. We do, but I didn't turn it on, so I'll start it right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
going through certain analysis, post-analysis of meetings. I was missing an element. I wasn't able to answer through the strengths analysis if we had transcripts available. So I'm going to start using those for the better.
Oh, the transcripts are definitely available. Did you want? I thought you meant captions. Did you want captions on as well?
They might get in my way. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, let's try it. I think if I see those, it'll distract me.
They're on.
Can
I don't
anybody?
think you see them. I think they're just when people watch. I don't know. I think they
Okay.
are a bit annoying. And I think you can put them on yourself when you're actually watching a replay.
Okay. All right. So we'll move on. This is you probably noticed the theme. This is a presentation that's eventually going to be probably 100 pages long. This is the next section of the presentation that you saw that we used last time through day 0. And it'll continue to grow. If I go backwards, you'll see the previous slides. And again, there'll be more slides. So it's going to be a year's work using this theme to just try to give everybody, so not to switch themes or, just try to confuse your subconscious mind or even your presentations that you share, people who follow along in the replays. So it'll follow the same thing. And so will the content. Okay. So I want to have somebody read, but I'll let you know what we're looking at here is our handlings, if you will, file or elements of what a liaison offers from beginning to end. We're actually in the first 2 elements here. So I'd like to have somebody read. I'll touch on the bullet points, and then if you just kind of read each one. But the training and onboarding is happening simultaneously right now. The training is built off of pretty standardized, fundamental, recognizable measures of education throughout last year. So now we can more confidently move forward with actual training. The onboarding, one moment, Richard. The onboarding is among those. We also have if you will, a static statistics on the news site. it kind of shows where we are with who among you and among the other states that are during the onboarding process. So we have, I think, 9, probably more. What we're going to talk about is something that you can share with your assemblies once they're finally approved. Luis and Kathy will notice these during our business meetings during the last 2 weeks. Some of the content that's shared here. Again, those materials are much cleaner now, and we'll touch on those. I'll have somebody assist me with reading those once we pull them up. But these are your 3 main touch points within your assemblies. If you was to gently drop yourself into your already familiar assembly, what could you bring as elements to your assembly as a liaison? And so meeting coordination, this is, I mean, to have any, to not question yourself is, are you coming to your assembly as a liaison less equipped? You know, are you bringing excess that may not be needed? This is how you can know. So your specificity on meeting coordination and those efforts. Coordination would constitute networking or interfacing. So this is your main single element all by itself. The material I'll share with you will help substantiate precisely what this is. Community engagement, also a networking effort, is specifically of itself. So you have your meeting coordination, and where are you with your coordination? Where do you find yourself? And it's within your community. Annette or anybody who's for their county is even more precise as far as where their engagement will be, as opposed to a state coordinator, which is reaching out to state law enforcement, those entities that works as agencies amongst themselves. And then what are you bringing as a group that is all encompassing? It's disaster response. So these are your efforts: coordination, where and how do you engage with your coordination, and then what are you bringing to your assembly? So disaster response. Okay, so let's go from the beginning. Would somebody like to read, and I'll follow along with my little blue pointer here.
I'll read, Joe. This is Rich Ernst.
Thanks, Richard.
Okay, number 1, training. Provides the necessary engagement parameters associated with what your state assembly militia has prepared in the realm of state border. I can't see the bottom of it.
State border defense.
State border defense. Number 2, onboarding. Provides each liaison with the necessary credentials validated to engage freely and expectably with all levels of county and state law enforcement. Number 3, meeting coordination. Greetings and salutations presentation. Peacekeeping Task Force. The presentation for 2025. Number 4, community engagement. Greetings and salutations presentation from the Peacekeeping Task Force. See the presentation for 2025. And then disaster response. The greetings and salutations presentation from the Peacekeeping Task Force, also from 2025.
Right. Now, the reason why I wanted to do that a little bit for you guys is to show what we've been providing for you upon full approval is what you will bring to your assembly if you haven't already. If you've tantalized a state assembly liaison, if you tantalized their interest with what you brought, this time you'll be able to bring precisely what is needed. Again, no more, no less. So that's why I wanted to kind of reiterate that on those 3 points, and just to emphasize, meeting coordination is your impetus, community engagement also, and disaster response. This is where you're at. As we venture on, where we are at this very moment are the training. So I'll go back a little bit. State border defense, the training that you're offering is the training to your state assemblies, your peacekeepers, what they've put together themselves. This is what constitutes the validated or the validation purpose, expectation, let's say, that constitutes standing. So again, the training is what you will be bringing to law enforcement as you being a subject matter expert. And as you follow along, as those training materials or publications are brought forward, So that's what embodies your training and our training. Now we're working together. We're using certain models that are world renowned. Swiss Canton method being a 58-year known community resilience model, which we haven't touched upon ourselves. But again, if depending on the status of your assembly, you can also bring that to them and assist with their training. In other words, offer what the Federation admires from a distance to help that training. So again, you'll notice exercises of synergy all throughout our efforts here. So again, that's what that is. If you're thinking you as a liaison are tasked with training your assembly militia, that's not the case. But we can certainly help recommend if you have an assembly that's kind of stuck somewhere, or God forbid, poised towards offensive posturing or anything like that. Definitely want to try to kind of steer them away from that as a primary need or as a publication on your state. So, and then this, of course, this is mainly what we talked about yesterday as our second meeting with each other internationally and with the fiduciary office about the credentials or the cards, the threshold badges, if you will, something that you would expect to have around the necks of people who are at meetings, who are invited to meetings or who host meetings. Go ahead, David. Quick question. You have a hand raised?
Yep, sorry. I remember reading on the PKTF news site at one point, there was a little article or page about the common access overlay to credentials. Is that go on the LRO ID card? Is that how that works?
Yeah, great question. What we've done is we've used something that's, first of all, it's been used, it's used worldwide, and it's used, well, if you know what an LEI is, it's a legal entity identifier. If, for those who have looked into how the system was used to ultra validate people's existence, a lot of it is tied to, or what was used as engineering through the Fidelity Mutual, where the identities of people, but unbeknownst to them, were used to validate their existence. You know, to just bring light to what that was. What we did, or what I sought, was the advice on how to mimic that same effort, but without joining that effort. So what we did is, again, we reverse engineered the concept, and we created a lawful identifier, LPI, lawful persons identifier. So, and it goes no further than that. We've actually shielded, taken every effort at this point to shield everybody to where you don't have to, with the common access badge, there's no need to render your credential card. Just with scanning that, it gives you multiple layers of recognition from the Federation and worldwide through the NCIC database. The liaisons are the first in line to be recognized as lawful, peaceful representatives and advocates for their assembly. So it's really neat. I wish I had more time to share with you guys, but this will be a part of liaison service management meetings that we'll have later on this year as well. That's what that overlay. Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
We actually shared a little bit of Boyd Adams' draft credential card last night. So, and by the way, with those, Luis, I don't have the link to the first meeting we had last week. So meeting 1, but just to kind of put a bug in your ear, I think I sent you an email. We do have the second. I mean, I do have the second, and we're going to put that up also on one of our platforms for replay.
You didn't find the first one? I'll send it again.
Yeah, I didn't. I have it queued to be re-uploaded, the meeting 2, but not meeting 1. Okay, so here's an example of questions that came in from people who are liaisons in training, who are going through the onboarding process themselves, but may not either have a good connection and are here now, or were not able to attend. So thank you for the Nick on the Ohio Assembly for sending these via email. So I'm gonna go ahead and share them with you. Here's what Nick's questions has on behalf of the Ohio Assembly. With Ohio, with Ohio looking to make sure everything is done for full seatment, they have asked me to get some clarification on 2 points. Can clear requirements for statement of the militia pillar and the objective evaluation that thoroughly documents how each requirement was satisfied. Can clear requirements. I just clicked and pasted these. So just to let you know what questions are being asked. We're going to get to, I did send Nick a reply back, letting him know these are good questions, great questions, and then we'll get the answer eventually. So you guys can see kind of the dynamics of how we're trying to share with everybody via the replays. They can see these, and maybe these are 2 questions they haven't even thought to ask, and maybe they need to be expounded on a little bit more, but that's the effort. Question 2, can you provide the formal method of how the state assembly is informed of the seatment status? Now that's a good one. I can definitely tell you in point 2, this is done by the fiduciary office themselves. So seatment, which is new. It's a new, I mean, that's definitely uncharted land territory. We don't quite know what that is yet. We're just getting kind of our warm and fuzzies about what standing is like, which is pretty simple. And if anybody has any questions towards the end of this meeting, we can talk about some of the details about what constitutes standing as far as we know. Right, so those are those 2 questions. We're going to start to, and so you'll notice this theme too, just to kind of show you where we start to transition from this slide presentation and how it's laid out to something else. Okay, so that's why I mentioned 2025. You'll see this again next time. Unless, of course, it's Luis that's providing her material and I'm not present. We'll have to kind of work through that. But just this is for my contribution for the calls. This is how I'm trying to transition and partition each part of this massive ongoing slide presentation. So we're going to move on to the next things here. Let's see what's next. Okay, so we're going to talk about what was shared with the Federation and with everyone else worldwide who attended the last 2 calls. I think I shared point B first, so I'm going to share that with everybody here first. And that was last week. And then this week, it wasn't illustrated on the call, but it was sent over to Federation. And I don't know who's actually managing all of that. I'm thinking that it's Anna when she has time, or maybe she has someone within the living law firm to help shake that out. But I will share portions of this or both with you, everybody here, and I'll read this evaluation of current American state assemblies, where they are right now. I think there's 7 identified from descending from the most evolved to the least, and I'll help describe what that is. And of course, I'll be able to share this with everybody once we have time. All right, I'm gonna stop my screen share for a moment, switch over to something else. Here. All right, sorry about the pause. I'm going to ask everybody as I read through these, but I am going to ask, well, no, just kind of follow along. What I want to ask everybody is, in your mind, where might your assemblies be within these 6 versions of the most, let's say this, the most evolved, to the point where they are comfortable that their state considers themselves at the standing, and then anywhere else, 2 descending to 3, 4, 5, and 6. we would add a seventh. I think, yeah, my mind is focused on a seventh condition, because any assembly that is now exercising their seatment status would then add a seventh element to this, but we currently have 6. Okay. So what we have, this is what, at least is how it's been identified: fully functioning with major interim or official election post of published offices or public offices. So these are the details. What would constitute this condition to at least to a recognizable standard. State coordinator selected and working optimally in the assembly background. Active interim martial arms engaged with Peacekeeping Task Force on state border defense systems development. Ombudsman service seeking training and practicing conflict resolution mediation. Functional or developing oversight committee. So I'll speak slowly over the next 2, 3, and 4 where the highlighted sections are. You can see as I'm describing and read the bullets. And then once we get past point 6, I'll then pause and then I'll mention additional challenges that we have. But see where you are, and before we move into additional challenges, after I touch on these highlighted sections, kind of let us know where you are, where you think your assembly may be. Here's where most of the assembly seems to be, close close to completion. I think I've identified 6 or 7, and you can go to the site and look at the different map variations that kind of indicate where these assemblies are, where they're nearing fully functional, or details such as the Ohio Assembly and the Florida Assembly, which has convinced them that they're ready at the state level. This is between points 2 and 3. This is where most of the assemblies are. So they'll have, they're working, they're in session, they have a significant amount of interim positions filled, but they don't quite have their peacekeeping elements. So they may have a marshal at arms, but definitely not an ombudsman. Hold on, my wife just came in.
Needs to be cleaned, but I'm going to clean the operator when we don't have enough fuel runs.
Can somebody take over for me? I'll follow along right here. Missing ombudsman service, lacking key roles and training. It's kind of where we're at. Little coordination on some assemblies fits this category, lacking core services or offices. And then inactive or unestablished. We have maybe 5 states out of 50 that there's no indication that they're even in session. So if anybody like to kind of share where they think their assembly might be among these 6 categories, kind of let us know. Anybody want to share?
I will. I would say Missouri's on 4, and then down at the bottom, additional challenges as well. Both points on the additional challenges.
Okay, thank you.
And both bulletins on lacking key roles and training.
All right. Well, that's good. That's great that we're sharing with each other, because we can feel the successes and the challenges, and it's similar with each other as a group effort. And that's kind of what we meant for. Is probably a bit hard to describe and ask during 2024, but this is kind of where we're at, where we share with each other to the degree that we feel is constructive to these meetings, as has been deemed as scenarios, just kind of where you're at. Nothing that you may consider controversial material or anything like that. That's something that if you had any other concerns, then we would expect your ombudsman service to be working hard to try to help work through some of those things. And as far as your state border defense, if you had, let's just say, a commander who was, gung-ho on reflexive fire, range, training, these kinds of things, first and foremost, or mostly or largely, that would be some kind of a concern for many people in your assembly. And it's just an observation, but it could get much worse than just that, as opposed to other things that your assemblies that your state would be proud of, to offer to their neighbors as things that are defense only and not offense. Kimberly?
Good evening. Thank you. I would say that we're probably on Michigan, in the 1 and 2 range. We are
Excellent.
we're missing our assembly commander, but we have a few that are we're in talks with. So potentially we may be able to bring forward that we found somebody that's willing to step to that role soon. And we do have an excellent state coordinator. She has just been amazing, and I don't think we could be any more grateful for her. We've got a really wonderful marshal at arms who is engaged with the PKTF, and we're working on the state border defense development. Have not had much success with the de facto counterparts as of yet, but we are working on it. Our ombudsman service is going fantastically. Thank you all for the support and help in getting that going. We have a wonderful ombudsman or ombudswoman, and we've got the global initiative that's going on at the moment. So I'm delighted to be a part of building out the more common law version of ombud services. And we have our oversight committee chair was just took her affirmation, and we are working on documentation right now in oversight and looking to build that out. We at this point are building and really are just trying to get more men and women involved, and hopefully can start to get some other things built out. Definitely have men and women that are looking on their own counties at this point to start to figure out how to do some of the county work and starting to assemble at that level. And so, yeah, I'm very proud of Michigan. I just couldn't be happier that we've just got such a wonderful group of men and women. And I would encourage all of you that, are going through difficulties. It was just about a year ago that we were in our most difficult point, and we are shining and doing well, and we really are having fun with each other doing it. And so keep going, keep coming. You're all going to get there, and I'm just all proud of you and the other states that are struggling. I see and witness that you guys are doing an awesome job, and I just hope that we can be some inspiration that things can turn around, they do turn around, and they will turn around. And last thing I guess I would like to say just on the record for everyone, any of you all, if you ever need to reach out to me on Michigan, I'm happy to work with you on all states. So would just want that on and for the record that if any of you needed to reach out or be put in contact with me, Kathy, Joe, Boyd, Luis, I give permission for the liaisons to be able to reach out and get to me as needed. So thank you very much. Appreciate the training, and I yield.
Thanks, Kimberly. Yep, I remember this roundabout less than a year ago. Michigan Assembly was steeped in challenges, no question about it. And yes, and I can attest to that 180-degree change, and it was a group effort. And yeah, so there's definitely proof out there that any of your assemblies that are maybe having troubles within the 4 and 5 range, it's resiliency is kind of the point there. Just kind of stay with it. And then if Michigan is any other example of blossoming after having met those challenges, again, another another fine example. Go ahead, Gwen.
Gwen on Canada. Terra Canada has had some great people step forward. We're few, but we're mighty. We've built most of the things that we needed to do. We've had our assembly form, we've had our elections, and we're sort of in an ongoing election mode to fill the few other positions that we consider critical at this time and maybe onboard a few more people. We do have our court standing. They're learning how to do mock trials now. So if there's help available in that area to kind of guide us and push us a little further into how to use that tool, that would be lovely. And of course, on Canada, we don't have the advantage you all have because a lot of us, we have our FACs or the ability to have arms, but there isn't the ability to do like hands-on type training, this kind of thing. So that's a deficit for Canadians. And of course, we're spread out in geography. So we do a lot of things on Zoom meeting at this point. Our ombuds are formed, but we're discovering that we may be moving into a position when the money's released that we might actually decide to hire, simply because people know people. And it's very difficult to get on your neighbor and tell him he's not acting in honor within an assembly without creating an enemy. And then there's a misinterpretation or misguidance, misunderstanding of vocabulary and what we can do. And then also we have that one member on the assembly that doesn't like to comply, so he keeps popping up. And so those are some of the things that we've sort of noticed. Our Marshal at Arms is there. He spends a lot of time traveling, so we need to get him keying in and coming to these meetings. And of course, Harvey's our liaison. And when Harvey can't make a meeting, I hop on. So we kind of like, you know, wear each other's hats, so to speak, for one another, just simply because we're still building. But we're happy. And so we've developed an emergency call out plan, kind of like range patrol, that kind of thing. So the things are coming forward. We just need more bodies. So that's where we're at. And I yield.
So Gwen, you're probably a blend between 2, 3, and 4, more towards 2 and 3. So that's good. It's good.
Paul
Right.
on Florida.
Okay, we'll take one more. I just want to be respectful of, we have one more pretty solid presentation to provide for you. It's a left and right presentations similar to this. Go ahead.
Well, I'll make it real short then, Joe. Florida's, we're being in the validation process for being fully seated, and we've had all the elections. What's interesting now is we've got our militia commander that is coming on and get on board and getting up to speed, communicating with not only Brian Harvey on Florida, but also our Tabitha Benton, who's our Marshal at Arms, and they're both in the same area out in West Florida, so they actually know each other. So that's helpful. So we're going to when we started the Florida Assembly and we got up, we did full training schedules on things like catastrophic bleeding and combat casualty care and things like that. So and having including the CLOX Rapid, which even the local rescue units don't have. We can stop catastrophic bleeding in like 17 seconds, where the de facto they'd be lucky to get it stopped in 5. But we've got to go through another training iteration because these are perishable skills, and we need to keep up on them. And when I say that, obviously now being a liaison, I'm kind of like out of it, but it's interesting how we're able to facilitate these conversations and keep things going. And I'm certainly hoping that we can have some good PKTF on Florida, participation and stuff, so that we can help people to really catch the vision for what we're doing.
Right. And we have Vinny as he's already, ahead of the game, so to speak. And with you, Paul has kind of been being with us the whole time. So and again, Vinny in great company as well. We're all in great company.
Thanks, Joe.
With this effort. Sure. Now I want to go back to especially point 6 and kind of share a little bit of our workload with everybody here, who's probably, if you're here, then you're probably not in, well, you're most likely absolutely not in point 6. But we do have states, even though we're trying to reach out to them, they were accounted for at one crucial moment, and in the past, in the recent past, but they don't seem to be now. So this kind of substantiate what Article 8 is of the Peacekeeping Task Force Charter. So, and this is really what spawns the presentation that that I'll be sharing with you next, that once we do get a hold of these states such as Delaware, Vermont, Montana, just to name a few, and there's not many more, we're going to provide the same presentation that once it's fully approved, that will be the first thing we share with them once we find out that they're there and they're safe and they're meeting, they're ultra fledgling, you know, meeting with one or two, maybe they don't have communications, reliable communications to meet virtually, whatever the case. But we definitely need to search for that pulse of those few, maybe 5, maybe 6 states. So I'll share with you that. But the challenges with areas 5, 4 and 5, these are the challenges that really stopped us while we're endeavoring to see if there is, you know, move forward from 6 to then 5, 4, and you know, as these ascend back up, we would expect, you know, a lot of movement, a lot of you know, awesome things taking place within these assemblies, that the doors would burst open and say, well, come on in, guys, thanks for being our you know, Federation advocate, who are actually ourselves, you know, Paul's Floridian, Vinny's Floridian, Kimberly's the, you know, Michiganian, all of those, right? You all are here. You bring the training back that was brought to you, and then you build them out in every direction. It's part of your networking. So it's really not me coming to your state, or Kathy coming to your state, or Luis, or any of us. We're just here to help tune you all yourselves to reverberate what is handed to you, then branch out on your state and then through your counties, like Annette. So that's kind of the dynamics. It's a little bit hard to, it's not hard to conceptualize, but maybe a little bit hard to describe to everybody. But the first thing that we hope for in any situation, we do expect, if you can envision a state that's in point 6 here, that there's not even a coordinator. So if we can't find an internet presence, if emails through the coordinator is not being returned, if there's no evidence to suggest that coordinators are meeting with Terry each week, then all indications that something is very wrong. And if there's no proof that any of the state assemblies are actually meeting in session, then that would then, if you look at Article 8 of the Peacekeeping Task Force Charter, then you can see how this becomes our first concern, and it actually is our first concern. We go from point 6 all the way forward through our evaluation process, our cyclical yearly evaluation process. But if we do have point 5, or if we do have a coordinator, so we have point 5 here, we have little coordination feedback. We reach out to the coordinator, and if they do have a marshal at arms, then we speak with the marshal at arms. But if that marshal at arms slams the door in the Federation's face, that gives pause for concern as well. So David was mentioning that he's kind of suffering a little bit between 4 and 5 as his indication to his state assembly health status at this point. So those are our challenges, and this is where we're at. So you're basically seeing what was presented to the fiduciary office to let them know what our challenges have been thus far, and to say that meeting with all of you has been a challenge. It actually hasn't. That's been a reprieve for our efforts to reach out to some of these assemblies. And then what you bring back to your assemblies as part of your reports, through your committees, through your assembly militia subpillar, through your militia assembly, all of those things. This is what we hope for, and we look forward to during our future liaison service management meetings, which we haven't really talked about yet. So any questions on that? I'll be happy to send this over to you all. This part I can send because this is a true status observation, evaluation, education effort, and then subsequent coordination. Go ahead, David.
I have more of a statement than a question. I'll just say that if Article 8 in the Peacekeeping Task Force charter was not there, I wouldn't be here talking with any of you tonight. We were definitely in need of that service and am very grateful for that. And yep, it's very, I didn't even realize that existed, until it became necessary on Missouri. So you pulled us out of a 6 and for sure into a 5 and 4, like I talked about, Kathy and yourself. And yeah, it's much appreciated. I yield.
Sure. You bet. Does anybody else want to share a little bit of their current state status? Before- No? Okay. All right, then let's have some reading. Now, this is something that I will be sharing with the Texas Assembly in 2 days. This was shared with the fiduciary office just to see if they would like to add other things or add other points that you'll see. So I'm going to have if you can just kind of share each other reading. See how many pages. Not too many pages. I'll go ahead and flip through them real quick so you can see. So that's it. And you can just read through them. If you're reading, if you're like me and you read, it makes great sense. If you hear other people read for you, it's less sense. But if you have it in your hand and then you share it and have read it through it several times and then present it, almost like the back of your hand. So, but this is brand new as far as it being presented. The rotation of material that is shared through the Peacekeeping Task Force, we definitely want to ensure that the fiduciary office is fully aware of what we provide. And this is all a part of our actual training. So what you're seeing now, as I mentioned earlier at the top, is that this was pulled from, and what we, after approved, embedded handbook. So everybody here is getting a brand new glimpse at kind of how things are pulled together, the mechanics of how things are pulled together as part of the training handbook or the liaison handbook. So go ahead, if you would, I'll read the introduction and then people just we can go ahead just to kind of get it out there and exercise what it sounds like, because this is something that in the future, when you're ready, you can share this with whichever committee you would find yourself in, whether it's operations or communications, wherever you find yourself in your assembly militia subpillar and its committees. This is what you'll be providing. This is not something that, just to help answer some of the questions you may be having, this is not something that you would provide to the General Assembly, but somebody within your subpillar, your committees, will then put forward. This is not something that you would necessarily provide to meetings that you have with, say, your sheriff, but you could. If you're a local liaison, absolutely you could. So just know that every word and every aspect, every point, every title, subtitle, bullets, they're all concisely prepared. Again, and you'll see in a moment when we looked at those 5 elements of where we're at, where we're moving forward to, you'll see hard stops in 3 specific areas regarding that constitutes your training overview. So I'll read the introduction and then I'll let everybody, whoever would like to help, take over and read each point. So introduction, this presentation is typically delivered by PKTF Assembly liaisons to their current or soon to be militia assembly subpillar, soon to be subpillars as part of their assembly militia or state general assembly militia development or other relevant future standing committees. This is something that Anna had mentioned as something that should be or is envisioned to be a new standing committee. So this is new, brand new. Okay, that's one of the parts that needs to be substantiated and clarified, because this will be something that will operate when your assemblies go out of session. If it's a standing committee, then it functions while your general assembly is on recess. Like your sessions committee, some call rules committee, your oversight committee, and your ombudsman. Just to name a few. Okay, so the purpose is to provide a comprehensive understanding of PKTF's role, training, and operational framework in supporting state assemblies and disaster response efforts while aligning with the Federation's blueprint for defense-only posturing. Okay, so I'll follow along. If anybody who has a strong mic and would like to read, just read to the point where you'd like to have somebody take over, but just read the bullet points. We don't have to really, I won't pause your sharing your reading, but just so we can practice hearing it for the first time and knowing that this is, maybe 85 to 95% approved, but still needs to be approved. So hot off the presses, as they say. I'll pause. Anybody like to read? Kimberly?
I'll help out, Joe. Just for clarification, you said only read the bullet points.
Right. Yep. So here you'll read just as you see from here onward, and then I'll go to the next slide
Okay, very good.
like that.
Training. Oh,
Now I will
lost my
pause when you
screen.
see purple. I will.
Okay.
Sorry. I will
That's all
pause
right.
just to remind you where you'll see responsibilities of the Peacekeeping Task Force, and that would be yourselves as liaison. If this is our responsibility for all of the states to intercept and sponsor, advocate for training, likewise yourselves for your state as part of the training. So, and again, I'll just go ahead and say it right now. This is the third element of the 5 that we talked about when we first started. This is the second, and then the third. All right, so I'll go back. Thanks, Kimberly.
Sure, no problem. Training overview. Availability. All training sessions are bi-weekly and accessible on replay for interested participants. Focus areas. Interface strategy between state assemblies, county law enforcement, and emergency services. Next bullet point. Reaction to natural and man-made disasters requiring coordinated response. Next bullet point. Communication and comprehension of assembly roles, standing, and seatment processes. The role of the PKTF. Not a subcontractor. PKTF operates directly under the Federation, not as an independent third party. Core mission, facilitate communications and coordination for disaster relief across public and private entities. Build cooperative relationships between service providers, law enforcement, and peacekeepers. Aid in organizing state assembly militias and emergency preparedness. Responsibilities of PKTF. 1. Coordination. Pre-planning for emergencies at local, state, and regional levels. Next bullet point. Networking with state assemblies to provide resources such as training programs, examples, CPR, burn response, tornado reaction, wildfire response, flooding response, freezing response, chemical spill reactions, extreme traffic accidents, explosions, building collapses, medical emergencies, water evacuation, purification, storage strategies. 2. Community engagement. Collaborate with county guardians, soil jurisdiction sheriffs and reeves, marshal at arms, militia commanders, and county emergency dispatch units to foster stable relationships before, during, and after emergency operations. Promote lawful organization of state and county militias under American common law. 3. Disaster response. Support logistical dispatch during crises. Address gaps in federal aid, example, FEMA limitations. Integration of land and sea jurisdictions. PKTF operates with combined effort on land, state assemblies, soil, county guardians and sheriffs, and sea jurisdictions to ensure seamless cooperation during emergencies. These jurisdictions work together to manage resources effectively for disaster relief efforts such as coordinating water-based rescue operations during floods and hurricanes, managing land-based responses like wildfire containment or evacuation logistics, and integrating maritime resources for coastal emergencies or chemical spills near waterways. The Federation Blueprint for Defense-Only Posturing. PKTF aligns with the Federation's commitment to defense-only posturing by nurturing proven community preparedness models such as the Swiss Canton method. Focus is placed on fostering community resilience through strategies like perfecting water evacuation. Sorry, I messed that up. Can you say that word for me, Joe?
Water excavation.
Excavation, sorry, my eyes were jumping on me, thank you. Perfecting water excavation, purification, storage retrieval, and safe routing to collection points. And ensuring disaster rebound operations are built on sustainable practices. Enhanced by communication abilities. Dual band radio technology. Recent advancements integrate cellular, satellite, and amateur ham radio systems coupled with mobile repeaters. These systems form the backbone of current full-spectrum communications operations under APC-MD, the American Peacekeeping Communications Mobile Dispatch, ensuring robust coverage across all terrains. Mobile communications priority. Effective mobile communications remain critical during all emergency operations. Affordable handheld radios ensure reliable communication when cellular networks fail. Deployment of mobile repeaters enhances signal strength in remote or obstructed regions. And the APC-MD's capabilities now include seamless integration of these technologies into neighborhood watch projects that feed directly into county and state law enforcement networks. The Peace Bridge Network. The Peace Bridge Network. Sorry,
Kimberly, hold on. We have time just a little bit. Philip on Florida.
Please.
Just to give you a little break. Go ahead, Philip.
Yeah, so you was at the Peace Bridge Network. I can start from there.
Thanks, Philip. Thanks, Kimberly.
All right, let's see.
Well, before you go, and again, thanks, Kimberly. Does anybody have any questions about what they've seen here or read here before we move on to emphasis on the Peace Bridge Network? Is anything new, foreign to you? Anything outdated? Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question regarding the land and sea jurisdictions. I know you're building relationships with the de facto, but are you coming from a position of enforcement, or where do you get the authority to expect them to listen or do what you want to happen when you're combining these two jurisdictions?
Well, the enforcement is more of the insistence that self-governance and self-responsibility during natural and or man-made disasters is the responsibility of the communities. So the insistence or the enforcement is the insistence on helping out ultimately, because natural man-made disasters happens to everybody simultaneously. But just to sit back and let the current infrastructure manage those, by and large or only, and then thereby restricting everyone else's participation directly or indirectly. And usually what they'll rely on is their own accountability and safety of other volunteers assisting. Those days are soon to be over, because when the states and the counties combined insist upon their part in helping to manage those efforts, then the less and less these assistance services, and being not part of that effort is no more. So that's the insistence or the enforcement, if you will. Mm-hmm. Good. That's a great question.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So the Peace Bridge Network. Peace Bridge Network complements these efforts by offering durable international communication resources tailored for logistical coordination across state assemblies. Follow-up investigations into potential criminal activities. Investigative support by PKTF. In cases where criminal elements may have caused disasters, example, arson leading to wildfires or sabotage causing infrastructure collapse, the PKTF collaborates with local law enforcement agencies while maintaining its focus on coordination and recovery efforts. PKTF supports follow-up investigations by providing logistical assistance to ensure evidence collection and coordination between jurisdictions. Role of the Continental Marshals Service. The Continental Marshals Service plays a key role in land and sea jurisdiction peacekeeping operations. During investigations involving criminal activities that transcend state borders. Responsibilities include enforcing orders from federal postal district courts in cases where cross-border crimes are involved. Similar to the United States Marshal Service, the United States Postal Inspection Service, in certain respects, example, postal fraud, Continental Marshals ensure justice is upheld across the jurisdiction. PKTF, Advocacy for Marshals Operations. PKTF advocates for the safety operations and interface networking needs of Continental Marshals before, during, and after missions resulting from drill assembly presentations, leading to indictments or other jurisdictional service requirements involving criminal matters. Role play effectiveness and incremental progress. Ohio Assembly role play example. The Ohio Assembly successfully utilized role-playing exercises with and without participating Assembly liaisons to stimulate productive discussions on the Swiss Canton method. These simulations focus on forming 9 Canton-style regions encompassing all Ohio counties in cooperation with County Reeves to enhance disaster preparedness. Recordings of these role-play opportunities are first available to the Federation Military Affairs Liaison Office before being shared with liaisons in training upon approval.
Thanks, Philip. Let me pause here because I know this may be brand new to some of you and others not so much. We did talk about the need for role-playing in the future. We touched upon that in training meetings in the past, but now we've found in the very recent past, within the past month or so, the opportunity to role play with the Ohio Assembly. Rest assured, the Ohio Assembly it's inevitable that they'll be seated very soon because of the effortless flexibility that they have, touching upon their multiple counties having County Reeves already working on building an affiliation effort amongst all, or association amongst all 3,143 counties. So they've already seized that initiative. The Florida Assembly is going to reverberate that same effort, and it's just inevitable. So this is just something new with every approved presentation that we have and every role play presentation that was conducted. U.S. liaisons will also have that opportunity. What you'll have is access to those. Once they're approved, they'll be published, they'll be uploaded and published for everybody to see. So that's new. Any questions about that? The role play? Any questions about the Continental Marshals and the responsibility and group effort from the Peacekeeping Task Force regarding their role? Kimberly?
Thank you. I actually just wanted to clarify the point, the bottom point there with regard to the postal fraud. If one wanted to actually make a report or bring something to the Continental Marshal's attention, how would we actually go about doing that?
Well, there would have to be a grand jury on your county or something carried up to through your state or your postal. From my understanding here, if you're in an area and the opportunity presents itself that your postal area courts manage that opportunity, which we'll have to check with CMS to find out more where they're at on that. Okay. Where they're prepared to, because postal fraud is something maybe many folks, even in the General Assembly, haven't realized that postal fraud fits in with the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. And there's always been a dueling. It's funny when you look at it between the U.S. Marshal Service and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. They say which comes first? Who's first as the actual federal law enforcement across from coast to coast between themselves. And you'll know it's the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. That's the newest or the first. But that's neither here nor there. The first counterpart with the U.S. Marshal Service is the Continental Marshal Service is the U.S. Marshal Service. Now U.S. Marshal Service does not take upon themselves the role of postal fraud, but the Continental Marshal Service does. In the sense, you might say, well, who's who as their counterparts? If they're separate, these two, then who is their actual counterpart? It's the fact that the U.S. Marshal Service isn't necessary. That's in that sense, themselves, Continental Marshal Service could take on the role and will eventually take on the role of the U.S. Marshal Service and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. That's what they anticipate. So to help better answer your question, how that ferrets out, Kimberly, I couldn't tell you just yet, but just another element of how because that's how a lot of things are exploited right now, if not everything, ultimately is channeled through the mail. And if it's found to be fraud on its face, then USPIS is supposed to take over. And that's a very, very serious crime.
And that inspection service is different than from the postal service itself. So if something needed to be looked at with the U.S. Postal Service, it would be the U.S. Postal Inspection Service that would be not really the counterpart, but the responsible party for that. So
right.
Effectively, that would mean that the Postmaster General of the USPS would be subject to whatever this inspection service would be doing. Am I accurate in that?
I think so. Did you say USPS or USPIS? USPS is
I was thinking that if USPS was needing to be checked, would it be the USPIS that would be doing that?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to just clarify. That's what I needed. Thank you so much. I yield.
Yep. Go ahead, Bobby. And welcome. I didn't see you come in. Bobby, you got your hand raised?
You're muted.
Wow. Yeah, here you go. How about now? Better?
Yes.
Yeah?
Much
All right.
better.
Yes. Yes. Get in touch with me after the call to make this short. I have a claim with them already. I have multiple claims with both US inspectors and everybody involved.
Thank you.
Get me after the call. Yep.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it. I will.
Yeah, these two, it's funny when they duel, and it's funny that they find it funny amongst themselves. And it's entertaining, and they're both admirable services in and of themselves. But when you find that they've kind of separated and not joined themselves, it's good to find out more as to why. But in our world, most of everybody is exploited through fraud through the mail. So it wouldn't be the U.S. Marshal Service in this sense. They've divided themselves in that role, but the Continental Marshal Service can take on both roles in the future. At least that's what they're anticipating. All right, so let me go. We're getting a little bit to the top, so I'll take over. Thanks, Philip. And thanks, Bobby. So annual preparedness initiative, all state assembly militias are encouraged. And again, folks, you're reading this as if you are presenting this to your own assembly militia, whichever committee, or to the chairman and say, Chairman, this is what we have. This is what we're working on. It's been approved. This is something that even PKTF directors are reaching out to stale assemblies or, absent assemblies, trying to. And once they do, they say, welcome, thank you. We're glad you're here. And so we're here to help breathe some life into and motivation into your assembly militia at that point. So this is what we're bringing to them, the same as you would to your more robust assemblies. So annual preparedness initiative. All state assembly militias are encouraged to maintain ongoing preparedness initiatives as part of their annual service effectiveness operations. Priority is placed on establishing robust communication apparatus and contact accountability networks to support community resilience projects. This is our part with what Philip read and Kimberly on the Peace Bridge Network and the American Peacekeeping Communications Mobile Dispatch. This is what we're bringing through for ourselves. some of your assembly militias may be working on something way more detailed, way more reliable, and way more available at the moment. And we realize that there's some assemblies that are eager to get started with what PKTF has available, and other assemblies. We've built that same approach towards offering what we have available to their assemblies. So I think the Florida assemblies moved on with something more expedient. And so they can reach out to PKTF for our coast to coast logistical efforts, which with whatever communications they may have. So yeah, it's kind of again another group effort, and it's still new. I think it's not even been 6 months since the Peace Bridge Network actually came online. And again, the Peace Bridge Network is something akin to Nextcloud or Mattermost or Element or Matrix as a digital platform, as opposed to what APCMD offers, which is actually a handheld, in your hand, and multi-managed by a computer network that your state dispatch will have at their disposal as well. So it's all really, really riveting. Kind of still in its infancy itself. So PKTF's role in assembly militia operations. PKTF does not mandate. This is from us to you as liaison. Make guidance, nor should you, to your assembly militia development. But be that precocious mind, that fly on the wall, and get to know, because once you fall into those three primer elements of what it is to be a liaison, you're going to want to then turn around and to begin networking that out from among your county assemblies and as sponsored, and then as you would expect, your state assembly as a group of counties are also networking along those lines. So you want to definitely be intimately familiar with what your own state board of defense is providing, but we certainly don't push anything onto them to your state citizens in that regard. We wouldn't. The Federation would definitely not do that either. So we don't conduct inspection. This is another thing. This is something that for some reason has been a stickler to just less than a handful of states to deduce what we're doing here as some kind of inspection. But it's to be fair, it's anything worthy of its salt deserves to be described as many times as needed until it's clear. But we don't conduct inspections of assembly militia operational projects or holdings. But you, as well as the Federation, receives publicly available materials that have been validated by your own state General Assembly. So anything brought forward as part of your effort is first or finally approved by your General Assembly. And this brings more as an emphasis to have an actual militia standing committee within your General Assembly, just to be there all the time to help bring those things forward to discuss and to talk over and consider going back to the drawing board, whatever the case may be. But that's how that goes. But we do not, or you should not think that you have to inspect or validate. You may have certain points where you're, if you had only one checklist, so to speak, with only one box to check, you would say, is our assembly militia peaceful? Yes, indeed, peaceful. And maybe another check block of 2 in total. Are we defense only or offense combined, offense defense combination? We are offense only. Oh, okay, 2 checks. So that would be something to that degree as far as any kind of pre-validation as you anticipate receiving validated publications. So that's how that goes. Hope that makes sense. PKTF liaisons are not expected to have permanent seats on the oversight committee. Now, this is a good one. And it was good that it was brought to this point, because if you're working with yourself, by yourself, or with 2 or more liaisons as a group effort, you'll find yourself usually couched yourself, maybe, part of communications. Maybe you have radio communication skills an experience. So maybe you'll find yourself working within the communications portion of your assembly militia. Another might be prepared and available more towards outreach. So you may, and you may be more confident to speak in public. So you may be more towards that subcommittee than your assembly militia pillar, or education or provisions. Wherever you find yourself, you're there all the time. And as well, you're not part of the build out per se, but you're just there in a more of a limited capacity to where you're not really contributing. You're just making yourself available and knowledgeable about what your assembly militia is working on. So what this means is you would be the first to be, if there's any kind of altercation, some situation where it was less than successful regarding your mission specificity, whatever may have happened, any collateral damage of some sort that is then questionable. All the people that were directly involved are in that capacity, have participated in the mission. If it was less than successful or some other shortcoming. One thing is reliable in knowing is that there is one neutral part. So you have people who are completely not involved. Then you have people who were involved, whatever the situation may be. If you attempted to reach out and if it went to oversight, if you can envision this, who would be then hopefully there, who has been there the whole time in an advocacy capacity? That would be you. Again, communications, yourself or someone else that you're working with as a team. For instance, Paul may be working with Vinny. Vinny's working there in two different committees, but something substantial had occurred, and someone within their assembly would say, "Can we call Philip?" Philip was within communications. He's our liaison, our subject matter expert, detached from operations, but privy to it, very privy to it. So then your oversight committee should expect us to have Vinny, in that case, come forward and share their findings and their substantiations on the safety and advocacy of whatever. Does that make sense to everybody? Hopefully. All right. All right, so I'll just leave this. You can read, these are our two last pages here, but I'm looking at the clock, so I'm gonna just leave this on the screen. We can kind of talk about it or beyond it and kind of wrap it up for the day. But yeah, this is something you can see in a presentation. You can take this in and of itself, read over it a few times, talk with your committees, the various committees that you have. How many committees should you have within your militia pillar? What does all that look like? That's something to be determined, and we're interested to know. And it's always good to have a successful assembly to kind of gauge those expectations off of them to where you're moving forward. That may be a question that none of you have. I don't want to insult anybody's efforts with their assembly, but some say, well, education committee and a militia pillar, where would that? Well, of course that would be there, to what degree and what does that mean, and what role do the liaisons have in that? Well, if the Board of Education as we know it is no more, but your assembly militia, again, committee, this has nothing directly to do with natural man-made disasters, but it definitely has much to do with communication, community infrastructure. So yes, a liaison could find themselves maybe a fourth liaison that focuses on how your future education will be for your counties, and just provide that information. And that's above and beyond state border defense, but it's definitely something that a liaison can network and can build network opportunities around. So just as an example, operations, communications, provisions, committees, definitely committee work you'll find in your assembly militia now or in the future. So, but yep, that's it. Call to action: get involved with your state and or county assembly militia. Let's see here. Reach out to PKTF for guidance on lawful organization and disaster preparedness strategies. If you're coming from an assembly who you have a really overzealous, somewhat questionable, but potential, militia commander or people working together, and they're excited to get started, but you don't. A lot of what you may be hearing from them for the first time, if it's a month from now, is complex or troublesome or worrisome or would bring unnecessary attention to your communities. Well, that is questionable, but this is a presentation where you can really, again, gauge where your assembly is now and what it could be in the future. And if it strays away from, as you know, defense only, then you can definitely take it to where it needs to go next. And we don't expect this. This is one of the, again, everybody, this is one of the reasons why we have these meetings, just to have everybody assure and reassure themselves that defense only is where you want your state border defense to be focused on. Anything that has to do with any kind of offensive, preemptive offensive posturing, that's usually always, I would say, let's just say always the responsibility of the man or woman themselves and their family. And if they're in any kind of group effort, it's going to be at the county level that they provide that to. So through their sheriffs, you will have, special strategic tactics that your county sheriff should have. So that's to be expected as well. Something that's not part of the state that we're training here, but just know that, again, the closer you get to home, the more responsible we all are for ourselves and our safety independently. So that's it. Let me pause or stop screen share. Any questions?
So I don't have a question, but if you send that presentation to me, I can attach it to the YouTube when I upload the recording. And then everybody will have it, and I can mail it out to my distribution list as well.
Okay, give me let's give it 2 weeks before. I'm gonna share this with the Texas Assembly on the 1st.
Okay.
And yeah, it's about 95%.
Okay, yeah.
I'm just waiting to see if military affairs wants to add any hard stops to any portions or expound on anything, especially with regards to Continental Marshal Service investigation. If again with the scenario, if there was a mishap on a state and evidence was found that foul play was involved, those kinds of things we want to make sure.
Okay, it looks really good. You did a great job.
Thank you. Everything I do, everybody, it's a group effort. I don't do anything by myself, except feed myself while I'm sitting at the computer trying to work.
You're very modest.
One thing I noticed as I was reading, and then as the two of you was reading through it, is that we're basically routing together the people of our state instead of relying on persons and offices to do everything for us. And so I feel like for the first time in a long time, like maybe almost 200 years, the people are speaking and standing up and saying we can do this, and we're organized and coordinated. And I think that's going to be very, very powerful in the future. So I'm just excited. I don't know how long it's going to take to do this, but I almost want to sign up and become a liaison. But I do have a lot of my on my plate as far as trying to get our county up. But I'm very excited. So I'm glad that this presentation was done, and I look forward to attending the next one in 2 weeks. How you?
Hey, Philip, it's Paul on Volusia. If you've got anybody there that shows interest and stuff like that, we can certainly talk with them, and your input and your promotion of the Peacekeeping Task Force can sure be valuable. I yield.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And thanks, Philip. Thanks for the positive feedback. I think 2025, between 2024 and the slogging through, and now through 2025, yeah, I think the interest of serving in this role, since it is so comfortable and inviting, people who have that peaceful heart, you're in the right place.
Okay.
Mhm. Peaceful and assertive with regards to taking care of
Yes.
one's own home.
Right. It's peaceful and assertive.
Yeah. All right, everybody, we're at that. I want to stick to the time
Joe,
that we have. Go ahead.
Bobby has a question. His hand's up, so I'm sure it's quick. Bobby,
Okay.
go ahead.
Hey, I just want to let you guys know, these radios have a designated liaison channel. So let Kathy or Joe know who's got radios and who doesn't. If you don't have radios, why don't you have them? What's stopping you guys from having them? And the people who do have them, they're not using them. That's all I got to say. Hey, yield.
Yeah, the Bobby, the Peace Bridge network, once we're able to just kind of add a two-dimensional to a three-dimensional device, it'll get out more. It's 5.5 months only, and we were able to build this infrastructure so quickly based on your efforts and everybody else's interest. It's going to grow big time. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks. And I'll get with Louise to see what she'd like to present. If I present the first part or the last part or no part, but I will send the thumbnail over to everybody.